Hi guys, this is Atomic Bunny.
And I'm the Crazy Chocolate.
And today we're filming 2011 Toyota Highlander, crazy chocolate car. Why usually people choose Toyota? Because of reliability, but I would say it's not real true about this car. What is the biggest comparative to Toyota? I think everybody knows it's a Honda Pilot, or a little bit upper class is Acura MDX. And what decided to do Toyota? She decided to do less maintenance cost. Biggest problem is that Toyota decided to change timing belt to timing chain, and this was a big mistake. No, actually a good idea, but you're supposed to do this right way. Or maybe they just decide to make some more money. Okay, it's a 3.5 liter engine with 270 horsepower. Also, you can buy a 2.7 liter engine, but this is gonna be only with front wheel drive or hybrid. To give you an idea about maintenance of this car around 100,000 miles, so about spark plugs. Spark plugs on this car would cost you around $300 for labor to replace it. For example, on Honda Pilot without this upper intake manifold, it could cost you around $80. I think you feel the difference. Water pump. It was a great marketing idea to remove timing belt from this car, and everybody thinks that, oh my god, Toyota is the most reliable car right now. You don't have to even change right now each 100,000 miles timing belt. But again, they make so bad water pump which you could replace even each 60,000 miles. And price for water pumps from dealer around $180, and it could take you, it depends on the car, if it's Camry, Highlander or Lexus, around 3.5 hours, which again around $350. It's totally the same price for timing belt on Honda Pilot. In Honda, at 100,000 miles, you get new timing belt, new water pump, everything is new and costs exactly the same as maintenance of Toyota. But the rest part of the engine is pretty reliable, transmission pretty reliable, but sometimes it happens that again around 150,000 miles you could have problem with this transmission, but again it's like pretty high numbers. On German's car you definitely need to replace transmission sometimes even earlier. 270 horsepower, not the big number, right? But because of this car is most lightest SUV in his class, this car is pretty fast. What you always can tell about Toyota that any Toyota feels very, very light. You feel light steering wheel and you feel how fast this car, probably because of the low weight. And even Acura MDX, which is more powerful car for this model year, is more, like I would say, a little bit slower to acceleration. Probably again because of the light weight of this Toyota Highlander. Also, brake is very, very nice to feel. I would say it's much better compared to Dodge Durango or Honda Pilot. Again, because it's lightweight, it's a great brake and great acceleration and great gas mileage. Compared to Dodge Durango, Toyota Highlander feels like a rocket. Acceleration is much, much faster. Bad thing about handling of Toyota Highlander, I would say it's pretty light steering wheel. I'm not a fan of this kind of great steering wheel. I would wish if it's gonna be a little bit more harder to feel, and also I wished, a little bit more harder suspension and a little bit like wider stabilizer bar, because each time when you make a hard turn on this car or you're going from exit to highway, you feel that car try to roll over. The car is in really good condition. I would say almost no problem, but at least we will show you what to expect from this car. We get keys inside the car, but we will get it. Don't do this in your personal life, it's dangerous. Truth. Finally, Toyota fixed it. It's biggest problem with exhaust system. It's a flex pipe. On this model, they totally remove it. As you can see, no flex pipe over here, which is cost you much less money during the maintenance. They just put like flex connector over here, which is again, like according to the age, you see like something start to falling off. It's again this crazy noise. Oops. but it's better than it's gonna be over here. If it's gonna be over here, it's gonna be noisy. In general, exhaust is, again, still much better quality compared to other Japanese cars. For example, Nissan, it's crazy bad with exhaust system. Over here, look, all connectors is still original, welded pretty good. Nissan makes this horrible. Toyota is the best. Oxygen sensor on Toyota Highlander is much more convenient place compared, for example, to his biggest comparative Honda Pilot. It's much easier to replace, which means that you're supposed to pay much less money to mechanic for his labor. And only one big problem with Toyota, it's the price for oxygen sensor is pretty high. Usually original sensor could cost around $160. Rear suspension. Rear suspension is, again, pretty reliable, but it's not a problem, it's, I would say, more issue. They put really tiny stabilizer bar, which I told you during the driver. You see it's like almost the same size, maybe even the same size as on Toyota Corolla or Honda Civic. I would say Toyota really dropped quality with its shocks, especially for sports model or for rear-wheel drive models. Usually you can recognize the sports model shocks by blue color. And I saw many rear-wheel drive Lexus with problem with the shocks. They start to leak again pretty early. And what's the difference compared to German's car? On Toyota, sometimes you can see when shocks is fine, but they get hole by the rust. But again, like, this car is really surprised me in really good condition without, I would say, any spot of rust. Toyota really increased his anti-rust protection on this model. They even put anti-rust coating with rubber on a brake line, as you can see, but they started this, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago before this model. And also they start to put shield, which is increased aerodynamic and anti-rust protection. Brake rotors and brake pads. Again, brake rotors for this model is pretty good because they increase diameter and I would say maybe even quality of the metal, because if you remove a brake rotor from this car and feel it's the weight, it's really heavy weight rotors. I would say the same as on a German car, because usually Germans put really heavy weight rotors. But again, it was recently replaced, I think maybe around 10,000 miles ago. Right now this car has 100,000 miles. But we put zinc coated brake rotors from Brake Besters, and as you can see over here, brake rotors still in a good condition. But doesn't matter. Zinc coated is good, but don't forget, if you pay more for brake rotors, this means that you pay more for metal quality, and some even not coated rotors, it could be alive for much longer time compared to like some Chinese coated rotors. If you use this car as a family car, for example, just on the weekend, don't forget to take at least once a week for a ride, because if you're not going to use this car, your brake rotor will cover by rust and you're supposed to replace it. Brake rotors and brake pads on this car, doesn't matter if it's going to be back rotors or front rotors, will cost you around $320–360. It depends on the price of hours per mechanic job, or it depends on the price for rotors brand or brake pads brand. Right now I will show you area where you can expect the biggest issue with Toyota Highlander. I would say with any 3.5 liter engine from Toyota. It's Lexus IS 350, Toyota Camry with 3.5 liter engine, Lexus RX 350, and also Toyota Highlander. That's a water pump. That's the most common problem on this engine. It's located over here, and you need to take a lot of parts to replace it. Usually you can see leaks under this pulley, and sometimes you can hear the noise. If you hear the noise, it's usually a sign to replace water pump. But this car is, I would say, really surprised me, because I saw a lot of Toyota Highlander, Lexus, when you're supposed to replace a water pump at 60,000 miles, 40,000 miles. Sometimes even you replace 2 water pumps before 100,000 miles. This one is pretty good. I'm really happy for owner of this car. In general, Toyota Highlander, pretty reliable car. I would say if they would fix this problem with the water pump, it could be a really nice car. I would say 100,000 miles maintenance is pretty expensive for this car, which is included spark plugs. I would recommend maybe if you see any leaks, replace again water pump. But again, if you don't see, don't touch it. but it's much more expensive than on Honda Pilot. Maintenance on this car also pretty easy. Drain plug is pretty convenient location. Oil filter also, they just put plastic cover here, but I believe somebody who did oil change one time ago or maybe 2 times ago lost this cover. All that you need is just some adapter for oil filter. Usually the same issue as with regular Toyota, what I would recommend you to check during your purchase. It's shocks, I would say transmission, suspension in general. Again, drive it on some highway or like on pretty empty street where you can go faster and check the noise from bearing. Check exhaust, but again, they fixed his common problem with flex pipe. No more flex pipe on this engine, but biggest issue is water pump. Don't forget to check water pump. In general about this engine, again, it's pretty reliable, but for example, if you bought this car around 100,000 miles and for example you have choice between Honda Pilot or some other car, Toyota, I would say, it's one of the most expensive car to maintenance around 100,000 miles. Why? You could get problem with water pump again, and the spark plug replacement, which is usually required by maintenance schedule around 100,000 miles, and you're supposed to take intake manifold out to replace rear spark plugs, which is again expensive job on this car. For example, on Honda Pilot you can change this for half an hour, but on Toyota Highlander you could spend around 3 hours, which is, you feel the difference how much you should pay for your mechanic. Another problem which usually you could get with the 3.5 liter engine from Toyota, usually customers complain about problem with the heating, usually during his stops on a traffic light. They feel that on a traffic light, when you stay in the traffic, you get much less heat than, for example, during your driving. Why it's usually happen? Because it's a low level of your coolant. What's usually happen with the customers is they put coolant just in coolant reservoir, but never add coolant in your radiator. For example, on Toyota Highlander, that's located over here in the front. On Toyota Sienna with the same engine, it's next to the intake manifold. Just don't forget to check your coolant level, but again, never check on a hot engine. Just wake up, at early morning, before you go to your work, just open coolant level, coolant cup on engine or on radiator and check your coolant level, and inside the reservoir and inside the radiator. If you are a money saver, I would say Toyota Highlander one of the best options, because Toyota Highlander has one of the best gas mileage in the class. Tires is, I don't know, just regular tires. I would say I kind of like them and kind of know, because I like to play with the tire size, and the Toyota Highlander doesn't have much options to choose what kind of rims, tires, because it's 19-inch size. Usually if you want to play with sizes, much easier to choose something like 20-inch or 18-inch, but if it's 19, 21 as on a Mercedes or BMW, it's usually not so many options with the tires. Guys, one thing about some security lug nut for Toyota or for any other car. If you're living in some safe area where you don't have to worry about your tires that somebody could steal them during the night, I would recommend never put them or never order from dealer, because sometimes you can break the special key for this nut and you can't unscrew it somewhere on highway, or even sometimes you can lose it, and you can make hole in your car pretty easy, but replacing this in this case is going to be pretty hard. If you live in a safe area, I would say never put this nut on your car. It's a limited edition of Toyota Highlander with navigation, with leather wrap steering wheel, with leather seats, with heating. Only, I would say, one concern about interior of this car is the material for dashboard. It's like regular cheap plastic, but again, how they look, if you're not gonna touch it, it look really nice compared to Toyota Venza, where they soft to touch but look like, I don't know, like my dirty pants. Nice to touch. And the same about dashboard, but it's hard to touch. But also I would wish to have a little bit higher roof, because my ears didn't feel well. Probably I need to do something like this. Ceiling in this car could be a little bit bigger. I would say, again, in Honda Pilot you feel yourself much more roomier. Ceiling is much roomier, and again, because of the square shape of of Honda Pilot, car feel much more bigger. Interior on Toyota Highlander looks pretty nice. I would say maybe some people wouldn't like colors of the interior because it's too many of them. I would say like tan leather, dark gray upper dashboard, I mean kind of aluminum style buttons, and which is most weird looks on this car, it's like fake wood with kind of red color. But again, it's design. Somebody like it, somebody no. My favorite thing about Toyota Highlander interior is the size of buttons. Buttons is pretty big, really, I would say huge. You definitely never will lose during your pressing which one to choose. And even this knob, which you can make, and which you can use to increase or reduce temperature, volume of your stereo system, it's pretty informative. Another thing which I really like about Toyota Highlander is the amount of cup holders on the front. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, and each cup holder in each door. Great, right? Thing which I didn't like as a mechanic, and I would say even as an owner about Toyota Highlander, and I would say even about any Toyota or Lexus, you need to clear your maintenance reminder on each display. For example, for oil change, you need to reset engine oil life. You see, oil maintenance requires soon, and also you have to do this on your GPS. Why they didn't put just one reminder? Why you need two of them, and why you need to reset both of them? What I really love about this car is room on the back seat. It's much more roomier, I would say, than rest of comparatives. And again, this car has options to move rear seat. You can do like this and you have like huge trunk, or do like this and you have a lot of leg room, like right now I have it. Also, you can recline your back of your seats or do some abs work and make your abs look much more sexy. Toyota Highlander, I would say, is one of the most roomiest car on the back seat. Only biggest concern is the middle seats is not the best option, but again, like so much space on the back seat, and right now I will show you. But only one problem, guys, if your girlfriend is hippo, honey, get out from here. Get out, get out, get out. Nice. It's a lot of space on the back seat, again, as we told you, because you can move the rear seat, which is, again, you can reduce your amount of space on the front, on the second row, but get more amount of space on the third row. But doesn't matter, Toyota Highlander is not the best 3-row SUV if you plan to put somebody on the third row. But again, middle seat, it's totally uncomfortable. It's like, I know, some bench in a park. But what I like is that you always can remove it. And for example, if you have just 2 kids, and you could get much easier access to rear seat. And again, they even find a place where to put this. You have like special storage over here. You can remove your middle part of your seat, sneak over here and put something like cup holder over here. Really great idea. I never saw anything like this, only in Toyota. But with seats all the way back, I would say it's totally no space for knees. You see, I can't even put my feet all the way on the floor. Not the best options for long trip. I would say Toyota Highlander definitely not the best choice for somebody who need to use a lot of third row seats. But for some small family, if you use it time by time, it's really great options with good mileage and pretty good reliability. Limited edition, also you can get DVD for back seat. Great family car. Trunk space, I would say it's again pretty big, much bigger in like compared to any other cars, for example like Volkswagen Touareg or Porsche Cayenne, right? But again, if your girlfriend is hippo, I would choose Dodge Durango. Also, not the best thing is the way how you supposed to open the trunk. Actually, one of the coolest options which you have on this car, that you can open separate just a glass and put some small stuff in the trunk. Not you, honey, not you. And if you need something bigger, you just can do like this. But again, they have like power tailgate, but you can only close by power. Where is this button? Over here. But you cannot open it. To open, you're supposed to, we will do this process faster, right? To open, you're supposed to do this manually. I would say it's like cheap. And again, button on the top of the lid. On Dodge Durango, for example, on some other car, I don't remember all of them, you can press on the bottom, and which is if you have a lot of stuff in your hand, honey, it's a not dance class, please be quiet. You can just press the button and it will open. Or here, you could imagine if you have like backpack or some other stuff from your store, it's right with your your hand will be pretty like hard. As a summary, buy or not Toyota Highlander. If you are a big family, if you are a real third row user, I would recommend something bigger as a Dodge Durango, Toyota Tundra, Chevy Tahoe. But if your wife not a hippo, just a pirate, it's pretty good car. Stay, honey, stay, please, don't worry. Nice size, like great gas mileage. Just don't forget to check your water pump. Bring it to mechanic before buy, and it will be great. Yeah, I love you. Thank you for watching our Halloween review. See you next time.
Bye!